Breaking news tonight, severe weather hammers the south. Heavy rain leading to dangerous flooding and desperate rescue efforts, with Texas getting more than a month's worth of rain in just 5 days as a tornado tears across Virginia. Terrifying moments, passengers and crew escaping through smoke and flames after a plane lands without its front wheels, on its nose. Actress Felicity Huffman preparing to plead guilty in court in the college admissions scandal. How much time could she spend behind bars? A controversial new gun law in Colorado aims to reduce deadly shootings, but creates deep divisions pitting sheriff against sheriff.
We just don't agree on this law.
A new twist on the traditional preschool story hour, but some communities are saying, not in our town. A son's sacrifice to give his mom the ultimate Mother's Day present, the gift of life.
This is NBC Nightly News with Kate Snow.
Good evening. The rain just hasn't stopped. It's already been a record-breaking month for Louisiana, Texas, and Alabama. And tonight, that rain outpacing the drainage system in New Orleans, where the water stood at knee level in some areas today. The severe weather also causing flooding across Mississippi and beyond. The dangerous system also spawning tornadoes like this one in Campbell County, Virginia on Saturday. As it all moves east tonight, the storm affecting major cities in the southeast. We begin tonight with Tammy Leitner.
Tonight, this latest storm system pounding the south. From tornadoes to unrelenting rain. The system already wreaking havoc across 6 states, with more than a foot of rain from Texas up to Kansas and down to Louisiana. Bringing record-breaking rainfall to the state in the month of May and dangerous flooding. Louisiana declaring a state of emergency. Overnight dramatic rescues in a neighborhood in Mississippi. 15 people trapped in their homes and cars. The torrential rain causing several dams and levees to swell and burst in the southern part of the state. Flash flooding may be to blame for this freight train derailment. More than 20 cars toppled, but no one injured. As strong storms move through the area, residents in New Orleans awoke Sunday to flooded streets and submerged cars after several city water pumps lost power.
The weather was really bad, and I came out like 7 and it was all flooded. And I have to use a boat out here.
The only way for some residents to get around, by kayak. This storm making the month of May one of the wettest springs we've seen. Tammy Leitner, NBC News.
With a pause in the rain near Houston, crews resumed cleanup today in one of the world's busiest shipping channels. A collision between an oil tanker and 2 barges in that Houston ship channel Friday spilled thousands of gallons of toxic chemicals used to make gasoline. Officials say they're monitoring the air and water quality around the clock, and they advised against eating fish caught near the site of the spill. They estimate it will take up to 2 more days to move the capsized barge. Now to some terrifying moments at an international airport today as a plane made an emergency landing without its front wheels in Myanmar. And it wasn't the country's first aviation mishap in recent days. Here's NBC's Ron Allen.
The frightening moments when a plane carrying 82 passengers and 7 crew finally lands at Mandalay International Airport when the front landing gear failed. Smoke rising in the cabin, a frantic effort to get everyone off. Evacuate. Myanmar National Airlines flight UB-103 took off from Yangon for an hour and 20-minute flight to Mandalay. In a statement, the airline said an emergency warning system went off when the front landing gear wouldn't go down. The pilot tried a backup procedure that also failed. He circles the tower twice so air traffic controllers could see whether the nose landing gear was down, dump fuel to reduce the plane's weight, then put the plane down, landing with no front wheels. Just last week, another landing incident in Myanmar when a Bangladeshi plane skidded and overran a runway in a rainstorm. At least 5 of the 30 passengers injured, the aircraft seriously damaged. Now, again today, disaster averted, the pilot being hailed as a hero for a terrifying emergency landing that ended with everyone aboard safe. Ron Allen, NBC News.
At the White House today, President Trump bracing for a new round of conflicts with Democrats in Congress, pushing back on their demands related to at least 20 investigations into his administration and his personal finances. Matt Bradley has more.
The White House is building another wall, this one against a siege of subpoenas and legal demands from mostly House Democrats. The Democrats have nothing, the president tweeted this morning, quoting Republican consultant Ed Rollins. They just want to distract from this president. The Washington Post listing at least 20 separate investigations, with the White House blocking nearly 80 demands for documents, testimonies, and other evidence, including the president's tax returns, testimony from his son Donald Jr., and an unredacted version of Robert Mueller's report into Russian election interference. The president's resistance has some Democratic leaders pondering drastic measures.
If the courts take too long, we use our own judicial process within the Congress. And look, I think if you find someone $25,000 a day to their person, until they comply, it gets their attention.
Some Democrats even calling for arrests. But for some Republicans, the legal maneuvers look like pure politics.
So this is really, I think, degenerated into partisan politics. And the best thing we could do at this point is say, let's get on with the country's business.
And the president believes Democrats' full-court press will ultimately backfire.
They want to do investigations instead of investments. They want to do what they're doing, which looks so foolish. And maybe I read it wrong, but I think it drives us right on to victory in 2020.
These cases could last months or years, maybe even past the president's term. But at least one could come to a head soon, and that's when the president's accounting firm will face a hearing this week. Kate?
Matt, let's turn now to the ongoing trade war with China. On Friday, the U.S. raised tariffs on Chinese goods from 10 to 25%. Today, it seemed almost like there was a disconnect between the president and one of his top advisors about who pays for those tariffs.
Yeah, that's right, Kate. You know, today the White House economic advisor, Larry Kudlow, he acknowledged on Fox News that Americans, not the Chinese, will be paying for those tariffs. Now, that's contradicting Mr. Trump's assertion that only China will pay what is in effect a tax. Kate?
All right, Matt Bradley at the White House tonight. The spotlight is back on Felicity Huffman as she prepares for another high-profile day in Boston federal court. Tomorrow, the actress is expected to enter her guilty plea before a judge in the college admissions scandal. NBC's Kathy Park has a preview.
Actress Felicity Huffman is expected back in court tomorrow. She's agreed to plead guilty for her part in the college admissions scandal. The Desperate Housewives star admitted to paying $15,000 for a proctor to change her daughter's answers on the SATs, improving the girl's score. In a statement, she wrote, "I accept full responsibility for my actions and will accept the consequences that stem from those actions." Legal experts say her swift apology may work to her advantage.
Felicity Huffman is like many white-collar defendants who are in trouble for the first time. She's racing to court to plead guilty, cooperate with the government, get the lowest sentence possible, and just move on with her life.
She's among the dozens of prominent parents charged with paying big bucks, in some cases hundreds of thousands of dollars, to get their kids into selective schools. While some parents have agreed to plead guilty, actress Lori Loughlin and her fashion designer husband are not among them.
This is government prosecution 101. The longer she waits, the worse it may be for Lori Loughlin.
This FBI sting, dubbed Operation Varsity Blues, is a storyline made for Hollywood and is already being scripted for a small screen series.
And Kate, after Huffman's plea hearing tomorrow, she'll actually be sentenced at a later date, and she could be looking at anywhere between 4 to 10 months in prison.
All right, Kathy Park, thank you. A Texas man has been arrested in connection with the disappearance of a 4-year-old. Malia Davis went missing earlier this month, and now police have arrested her mother's former fiancé, Darian Vence, charging him with evidence tampering. Vence was taking care of Malia while her mother was out of town, and then he reported the girl missing in his home. Investigators found the girl's blood and other evidence they now believe are connected to her disappearance. The tense debate over gun laws in this country reignited last week after a deadly shooting at a school in Colorado. Well, that same state is about to enact a controversial law meant to reduce gun violence, but the move is pitting sheriff against sheriff. Here's Steve Patterson.
Two sheriffs, between them more than 60 years in law enforcement, but now deeply divided over one law. The extreme risk protection orders give judges the power to decide if officers can temporarily take away guns from people thought to be at high risk of harming themselves or others. It's been passed in 15 states across the country, and it takes effect in Colorado next year.
We just don't agree on this law.
But Weld County, Colorado Sheriff Steve Reams is so strongly against enforcing it, he's willing to go to jail. Arguing the law goes against several amendments, including those governing unreasonable seizures of property and the right to bear arms.
And that, in your opinion, is a violation of the Constitution?
Absolutely. That turns due process on its head.
Reams' reaction may seem extreme, but more than half of Colorado's 64 counties also oppose the law, some even declaring themselves Second Amendment sanctuary counties.
House Bill 1177 is passed.
The bill was signed last month, just weeks before yet another deadly school shooting in a Denver suburb.
She called me and she was hysterical, and she told me that there had been a shooting.
It's that kind of tragedy, coupled with the shooting death of a close colleague, that has Douglas County Sheriff Tony Spurlock backing the measure.
Deputy Zach Parrish should never have happened. We knew the individual that shot and killed Zach Parrish. We have been dealing with him for 3 months.
Sheriff Spurlock says they knew about the shooter's erratic behavior before his deputy, a father of 2, was gunned down, and that a law like this could have prevented the tragic ambush.
Is it perfect? No, it's not. I believe that lives will be saved.
While both sheriffs say the law is a temporary fix, they do agree on a common cause, getting to the root of so much violence and pushing for legislation devoted solely to improving mental health. Steve Patterson, NBC News, Denver.
Let's take a turn now to the reality that you've probably noticed at the checkout counter. Stores with fewer cashiers or maybe none at all. Last week here in New York, Amazon opened its 4th cashierless store. No human interaction needed at all. But the trend toward convenience comes at what cost? Here's NBC's Ron Mott.
It's the future of checking out, and experts say they're in to stay.
I like it.
It's super convenient.
It's a faster way to just pay your grocery and get out of there.
But automated cashiers are beeping and creeping up on people like Jade Lee Carpenter, a 22-year-old single mom whose job working the register at Coventry Market in Cleveland is her only source of income.
I fully depend on my job as a cashier for my son and for myself to support where I live.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Jade's been a cashier 3 years and says she has an advantage over machines.
I do think that I sell more products because I know what they want and I can have it ready for them as soon as they walk up to the counter.
Amazon has taken a very different approach with its Go stores, literally shop and leave, no interaction needed. In a statement, Amazon says, we've simply shifted how our associates spend their time so they can focus on the tasks that will make the biggest impact. There are more than 3 million cashier jobs, 74% of them held by women. But in the last 5 years alone, 50,000 jobs have gone offline, a trend expected to continue.
It does worry me because I do believe that these entry-level jobs that are applied in retail and some of the other jobs that are around will ultimately be automated out of existence.
At Coventry Market, Jade is proud of the skills she's developed.
I've learned how to interact with people, how to count money, how to make a schedule.
All adding up to a promotion to assistant manager. Ron Mott, NBC News.
Still ahead tonight, what some say is an innovative way to teach tolerance to kids, but not everyone approves. Also, just in time for Meghan Markle's first Mother's Day, a brand new picture of the royal baby with a special tribute to Princess Diana. Story time at the library or a bookstore. It's a tradition for families with young children. Well, now in more than 24 locations across the country, there is a new twist on Story Hour with the goal of using imagination and play to teach acceptance. But as our Kristen Dahlgren reports, it is not without controversy.
Across the country, protests, police lines, and petitions, all in a battle over books. Or rather, who is reading books to children in a literacy program called Drag Queen Story Hour.
Once upon a time.
Jonathan Hamill helped bring the concept to New York.
I guess our goal is to make every kid feel comfortable and have a safe space to explore. Kids can feel safe in a space where they might be feeling different.
There are now more than 35 chapters nationwide. Performers with the nonprofit undergo training and in many cases background checks. For Jonathan, the dramatic flair and the kids' curiosity seemed a perfect fit.
Is that your real hair? Is that your real name? Are those your real nails? Just like really funny things like, is that a wig? They know it's dress up and it's a costume.
But there's been backlash.
Not to bring their kids to this event.
Contentious city council meetings.
The wickedness.
Even lawsuits. Some saying, not in our town.
On behalf of God, we're asking him to move this totally out of our community.
Others insist it confuses kids still learning about gender identity.
This is certainly inappropriate. This kind of thing for a little bitty child, they're too young to comprehend such a thing.
How about a duck?
For Jonathan, though, the protests are exactly the point, making sure the next generation is taught tolerance.
When they grow up and they see someone different down the street, they won't treat them any differently because of how they look or act.
So far, most of the programs are still in place.
At the end of the day, we're just reading to kids, so we're promoting literacy, we're playing games, we're having fun.
Doctor, did you have fun?
Yeah. Kids and drag queens, controversial to some, but here at least, keeping the audience hanging on every word. Kristen Dahlgren, NBC News, New York.
Coming up, the mom who is thrilled to be alive thanks to the son she calls her hero. Check out that bright light streaking across the sky over Chicago Friday night. It was a meteor captured on cameras around the region, lasting only a few seconds and stunning folks around the Windy City. It burned out quickly, breaking apart before it could ever make impact. Next to the shooting star lighting up the internet today, the newest member of the royal family, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, released this cute little photo of baby Archie's little feet as Meghan Markle celebrates her first Mother's Day. The royals paying tribute to all moms, including Prince Harry's mother, Princess Diana's favorite flowers. You see them there, forget-me-nots? They're in the background on purpose. When we come back, a son's sacrifice to save his mother's life. Finally tonight on this Mother's Day, a son in Utah recently showed his mother just how much he loved her by giving her the priceless gift of life. Molly Hunter has their story.
The decision to save his mother's life was the easy part.
I was very willing because I love my mom.
But for Brandon Finlayson, convincing his mom, Gwen, was harder.
It took days to get her to finally even think about the idea.
Gwen had been sick for nearly 3 decades. 5 years after she was diagnosed with autoimmune hepatitis, she developed cirrhosis of the liver and was told she needed a liver transplant within 3 years. But she pushed on, refusing to seek a transplant donor.
I didn't want to take a liver away from somebody else.
In between hospital visits, there were weddings and family vacations with her 4 children and 21 grandchildren. But last year, doctors forced her to sign up for a transplant waiting list.
At her age, they told us, they were up front and said, this is her only chance.
Her children, now all grown up, came to terms with just how sick their mother really was. And her only chance was Brandon. 37 years ago, Brandon was in the NICU for days. Then, Gwen taking care of him.
The fact that we were all worried about her and that she wasn't the one that could be the caregiver really bothered her.
I'm not sure I have the words to describe how I feel about my son, that he would risk his life for another human being. Didn't have to be his mother.
But it was his mother, and now both are recovering 3 months after their surgeries, just in time for Mother's Day.
Well, I don't have to buy her a present now, right?
Molly Hunter, NBC News.
And Gwen says instead of dreading her future, she now sees it as one full of hope. That is NBC Nightly News on this Sunday. Tomorrow, Lester sits down with the men who were branded as the Central Park Five and Ava DuVernay on her series that sheds new light on their wrongful conviction. I'm Kate Snow. Happy Mother's Day to my mom and all the moms out there. For all of us at NBC News, have a great night.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.